Hello, welcome back to Untitled-2 podcast. My name is Connor.
And I'm Ash.
And this episode we were thinking of doing, having a discussion about, I'm choking on small sausages. Having a discussion about graphic design. Not so much like, this you should use this font or whatever, because
Everything should have a reflection and a shadow. Vista style. I hated that whole phase.
In fact, I went through that phase as a graphic designer. Well, basically, I'm in a graphic design job at the moment, and I feel like it's a very difficult industry to break into. I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, okay, so we already talked about my little foray into graphic design at college.
We even talked about your illustration and how that started.
Yeah, which
in
was
the
Pokemon.
episode.
Yeah. But we didn't really talk about uni because it was a pretty long story.
It's a very
It was
dark
shitty,
era in your chapter.
It was a shitty time. So basically, one of the biggest problems with my uni course was that it was massively underfunded. We didn't get the resources that we need, or even the space we needed. In first year, we had this huge, classroom, and it had these rooms that were sectioned off, which were like little IT rooms with Macs and everything, and it was like this perfect workspace. We had an area we could get messy and try out different types of media. And then second year, they were like, "Oh, we're just going to wedge you in this computer room." So we just had this tiny, way too warm computer room, and they kept saying, "Oh, try and use traditional media, stay away from the computers." And it's like, there is literally nowhere to put a notebook down.
Traditional media in a graphic design course.
Yeah.
Right.
They have some points. I think what it mostly was that my graphic design tutors were very elitist about their outdated methods of doing graphic design, and they didn't want to see them lost. And I can get that. There is a style, a visual style that you can get from using traditional media.
Yeah.
But I got into graphic design because I could draw, and I was very into computers and IT, and I thought, well, that's the best of both worlds. Yeah. So, me personally, I wasn't too bothered about the traditional media. I just wanted to get into digital media, so video editing, 3D modeling, vector graphics, all that kind of awesome shit. I wouldn't say I'm very good at graphic design, like techniques wise. Well, no, ideas wise, I'm not the most creative or anything like that. But the thing that I love most about graphic design is the process. Just figuring out how to make your computer make this visual thing, and then doing it. And then once I've done that for a while, I'll kind of get bored of it. Like, I'll do vector graphics until I've mastered the process, and then I'll be like, well, I've got nothing else to learn, so I've kind of gone off of it now. So then I'll be like, oh, I'll do video editing, and I'll learn special effects until I feel like I've got a good understanding. I won't say I'm a master of special effects by any degree, but I sort of hit a wall where it started to be like you had to pay a lot of money to be able to do the coolest shit, and I just wasn't gonna do that. Same with 3D modeling. Like, I started off small and then got to the point where I was making these huge dioramas and scenes and stuff that took. I think one of them, I did this windmill scene. So I 3D modeled a windmill and animated it to rotate, and the blades had cloth on them, which had physics on them, so they blew in the wind as it rotated. And then there was this huge field of grass in front of the windmill, and the grass moved with the wind using physics. And that took 2 days to render 10 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I've hit a wall. I can't go any further without paying. So
getting a server farm.
Yeah. So I figured that was a good place to cut that off. So I've sort of dabbled in every sort of digital media until I feel like I'm good enough to do what I want to do with that media, and then just sort of moved on to the next thing. Jack of all trades, master of none, basically.
Yeah.
I think with my current job, vector graphics comes into it a lot. I think that definitely helped with getting the job as well, just because my portfolio had so much vector stuff in it. So if you are looking into moving into the graphic design industry, I'd definitely suggest don't be stubborn like I was in college when I picked up Illustrator and I was like, oh, it's nothing like Photoshop, I don't care about vectors, and that's probably the stupidest thing I've ever said in my life. It wasn't until start of first year in uni that I started using vectors, and I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
I think my final project, which was a book full of vector illustrations from first year, is probably one of my favourite things that I did throughout the whole 3 years at uni.
I like vectors because it's very much math based.
Yeah.
And that, like, I'm very logical, but I'm also really creative, and the fact that vectors exist is like the best of both worlds.
Being creative?
Being creative. But I've only just started messing around with vector graphics.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have done it a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm enjoying it so far. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've done some cool stuff with vector graphics. I did I started a series of Destiny weapons.
Yeah.
I think I only did 3 of them. With Dreg's Promise. Was it Dragon's Breath?
Yeah, yeah.
And Bad Juju, which is the coolest looking of the vectors I did. And they look so crisp and like beautiful, and I used gradient mesh to like form shapes around it without using too many vectors. And
Yeah.
they look really good. And then as I was doing it, I think a DLC came out and there was loads more weapons, and I was like, oh no. Plus I had uni work to do, and I couldn't find a way to fit that into any project without being kind of cringe and yeah. So I wanted to keep it sort of professional, something that I could have in my portfolio and show to an employer.
Yeah.
Because there's people that go to uni and they do graphic design and they want to have fun. Wait, that was the wrong way to phrase that. You can have fun with it and just don't make fan art the whole time that you're there.
Yeah.
Because it's not really impressive to an employer.
Oh, furry porn.
Yeah, I understand that the reason that you get into graphic design is probably to do fan art, to express things that you're interested in your own creative way, which I definitely, well, until a couple of months ago I was doing, but I just don't find time for it anymore. But if you do want to make a living from the 5 years that you waste in education, learning things you probably already know, just so you can get a bit of paper that tells you that you know it, then it's worth creating things which will be helpful in a job interview scenario. So try and stray away from fan art and, I don't know, Harry Potter manga and stuff.
I think a good way to like do fan art, but like also it's like not fan art, is like recreating things that already exist. Like if you take the Twitter logo and like recreate it, and they call it like a I forgot what they call it, but like when I was learning web design, web development, I used to do that with a few websites. I'd like recreate it, but like, you know, do a envisioning of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good way to practice. Is to, especially if you're learning vectors and you want to get good at making logos, just find a big library of collect a library of logos that you think could be improved, and then try and reimagine it.
Yeah,
that's a really good way to practice vectors. I forgot what I was going to say. That happens a lot on this podcast.
You're saying don't do fan art.
Yeah, try to gear your work towards getting a job. I know it sucks, and I would much rather not have a job and
like,
just do my own stuff all the time.
Dress for the job that you want. It's kind of like that.
Yeah,
you know, you make sure all your work reflects the type of job that you want to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Left.
So if you're doing things like fan art, which is an exciting thing to do, especially when you're posting it online and it gets loads of followers and people are like, oh, that's really cool, that feels awesome, but maybe try to do that in spare time rather than as a uni project.
Yeah.
Basically all your work that you do in uni, you want to go into a portfolio that you can take to a job as soon as you get out, to show them that you can do those things. There's a saying which is get a job doing what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, I like that saying.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like it's a very narrow when it comes to graphic design, because like I love doing 3D models, for example.
Yeah.
I think that's really satisfying. I also love coding, but I'm not very good at it, so I'd never get a job doing that. With graphic design, you can't just get a graphic design job and then every project you get will be something you love. So you will work a day in your life, basically.
Yeah, I think it's more like pinpoint than that. Like, I wanted to be in a band when I was growing up.
Yeah.
As like the lead guitarist, and if that happened and I was making sick music and touring and stuff like that, then I'd never be working a day in my life.
Yeah.
But if I ended up not being good enough to, front my own band and end up being like a touring musician for some other band and they're getting all the fame and I'm not getting anything, then I'll be working.
Yeah.
It'd be awful. I think it's more like that. So like, if you love graphic design, you want to get a graphic design job, then maybe it's more like starting your own graphic design company, maybe.
Yeah. But I don't think I could do that though. I think there's a lot of business stuff behind it as well, which would again take the fun out of doing graphic design when you just want.
I think you should make it as complicated as you want or as easy as you want.
Yeah.
Like if we went into business as a graphic design company specialising in like logos for businesses and stuff, then we wouldn't have to really employ everyone. It could just be us two sat in an office and picking and choosing what clients we want and stuff like that. We wouldn't have to worry about too much.
But again, it is a bit of a difficult, because I did some work experience with a company in Leeds, a graphic design company, and they weren't a design team for a company, they were a graphic design company, so they were constantly fighting against all these other graphic design companies that had set up to try and keep graphic designers employed, trying to get clients. So there's this constant battle that's going on, and I think that's really depressing thing to have to go through. So
it's probably only depressing because they were doing it on such a large scale. I bet it's easier for the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were we saying?
Yeah.
Never work a day.
Never work a day in your life. Yeah. Because I do have a graphic design job, and like 90% of the time it's just boring. It doesn't help that it's for a sports company, and I have no interest in sports, so that's really grinding when I'm like doing football graphics, and I would much rather be working on a games development team, doing concept art and like all the vector stuff you see in Destiny, that kind of thing. I think if I worked in that environment, I'd probably never work a day in my life.
Yeah. I think it's about perspective as well. Like, you might hate it now, but if you got a job and then the new job turned out to be much worse, you'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe how well I had it at my last job.
Yeah, that can be quite difficult as well.
I was like that when I was working at Victoria Hall. I fucking hated it for like months. And then I befriended my manager, and we were hung out all the time, like at work. We were supposed to be working, but she'd be all like, oh, do you want us to go and grab a coffee and chill out at my house for like an hour? And I'd be like, yes, sick, let's go do that. And I really started to enjoy it then. There were still days where I was, like, she went in, no one else was in, it was just me and like another guy, and it was really boring, and it seemed like that day lasted for like such a long time.
Yeah.
But it's all about perspective, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, one thing that helped sort of get me excited about the job, because when I started I was very excited about it. Well, I was working freelance for him for a year, so in the middle of my second year, just after second year, I moved in with Candice at some student halls, and she needed to move out because she was here on exchange, but she finished the year. She wanted to stay here with me. So I was just rushing myself to find a job for like that entire summer. We got to a point, because we both smoke, we got to a point where we couldn't afford cigarettes, and we were using roll-ups for a while, and then we got to a point where we couldn't even afford papers, which is like, I don't know, 99p, and we couldn't get the money together for that. And then my freelance job came around just at the right time, and was designing websites, but the way the system works is it's a template that you upload graphics to.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really challenging at all. It was just sort of doing the same thing over and over and over, and I absolutely hated it for that entire year. My final year at uni was a nightmare because I had all that work to do. They gave me some video editing stuff to do where I had to edit together football matches, the highlights from football matches. So until I got them to hire Ash to help me out with that, I had to watch through all the clips, pick the best ones, save them out, and then edit it together into a video, and that would take up an entire weekend. So I'd be doing uni work and the web design stuff Monday to Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday and Monday morning I'd be doing the video editing stuff just non-stop, and it was a total nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine. All I had to do was fetch clips for you.
Yeah.
Once a week.
It was a lot easier once I got you to help out, because that was only like half of Saturday and Sunday.
Didn't last long because the football season ended pretty soon after that, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, it didn't last long for you, but I was doing that for about 4 months or something.
Yeah.
Just every weekend, which was crazy. And at the same time, I was doing a video game model for a games development team that was in our town. I made a boar character and rigged it, and I discovered this really cool way of sculpting in ZBrush and then exporting it into 3ds Max, putting it over a low poly version of it, and then projecting the details into a normal map so that you could have this low poly model which the light bounced off it in a way that it looked like a super high poly model.
Yeah.
And that is probably the last 3D model I did, but also the best 3D model I did, and the texture was really nice, and I hand painted and stuff. It was just, I was really proud of that. But I didn't get to take the project the whole way because I was going to animate it, send the animation files, so like an idle animation, a running animation, jumping, pushing a button with his nose sort of thing. But because I was so busy with the stuff from my job, I didn't get to do all that. I feel like that's maybe an avenue that I missed out on, because I could have possibly moved that into games development, but the second half of my third year, I actually made a mobile game, which I never actually got working on mobile. But I got a beta version of it for PC with like keyboard controls and stuff. But
I remember that.
The main point of that wasn't that I could script it and what have you. It was that I made all the assets. So I had loads of concept art, I had 3D models, I had renders, I had just assets upon assets upon assets. And then I didn't know any coding at that point, and I learned to code in Unity as I was doing it.
Yeah.
And that turned into a pretty cool little game. I haven't actually touched it since I finished uni, because everyone was like, oh, you're going to finish it and put it on the App Store, and I was like, oh yeah, I could possibly do that. But as soon as uni was done, I was like, oh my god, thank god.
It's so much work as well. Like, you had it in the beta stage, and
that took me
half a year. I wouldn't even say it was beta, I'd say it was more alpha.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I wrote on it, was alpha stage.
And to get it to like a complete product that you can put on an app store, it would have taken you months and months and months.
Probably about 2 years of working at the same rate that I was.
You learned what you needed to know about C# and not like the whole language. So
yeah, exactly.
You would have hit a wall at some point, and you'd have to learn more. And,
exactly, yeah.
Because it's not a massively complicated language. There's loads of debates online for like C++ versus C#.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting language, but it is very, complicated.
Yeah.
To the untrained.
I had loads of other plans of stuff that I wanted to do with the game and with other projects in that second half of my third year, but I just didn't have the time because I had a job as well, and it was just really grinding and depressing. Just never having free time and always working. So
I keep saying that we should make a game together or something. I just want we've got a project now, this podcast.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like I want like a really nice design project.
Yeah. We should do some collaborative vector stuff when you.
Yeah, because I learned quite a bit of C#.
Yeah.
I call it C# because I'm a musician, and C#'s a note.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people online call it C#.
What?
Yeah,
That sounds really wrong.
I know.
Chash.
And it doesn't roll off the tongue as much as C#.
I just think maybe they haven't heard anyone say C#,
Maybe.
so they read C
I've
hashtag.
heard people say C# as well, but I've always just said it as C# because that's how I read it from a
Well,
musician.
when the first time I saw it, I did call it C#. I do remember that. And then you're like, C#, you knob.
That's just me being a musician, though. That's how I originally read it.
Yeah. One of the things I did for my NDA show was to put all my code onto a huge A2 poster, and it had every time a bit of code referenced another bit of code, there was like a line that connected it. So it became this huge like wall of code with this like network of connecting wires between each bit of code, and it looked awesome. But I haven't managed to get back to uni to pick up my work, so it's still there. I don't have another version of it. I could get another one printed, I suppose, but I just thought that was really cool. Everyone was like, "Oh, your game looks really nice" and all this stuff. But like for me, the crowning achievement of the whole NDA show was this huge poster with every bit of code that I put into the game.
Yeah.
And it was like A2, but I had to make the text so small that you like had to have your nose against it to read it. It was like 6-point text on it, and it just filled this A2 poster.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So every bit of code was on that.
Yeah.
So like if you had a anime controller script, that was on there.
Yeah.
If you had player controller scripts or like menu scripts and stuff, all of it was on there.
Yeah, it was all on there, and
Wow.
then say if you click the menu, it'll go to the next. It'll go to the level loader.
Yeah.
Load next level. So the script for where you click that button had a line going to the level loader,
Yeah.
which had a line going to the next level. So
I don't think they use load next level now in Unity in the latest version.
Well, no, that was just an easy way to describe it. It said load level, and then in brackets it's got the name
I
of the
was
level.
just thinking it's like an interesting fact that because they keep changing it. Obviously,
Yeah.
And I think the latest when I stopped messing around in it, the latest update changed a bunch of attributes and stuff. So
Yeah, I was using, was it 4.6? But they're
Yeah.
actually on like 5 point something now.
yeah,
So it was the old mono something. Instead
mono
of-
develop
Yeah, it used mono develop instead of
Visual Studio.
Yeah, Visual Studio.
I preferred mono develop. Visual Studio's laggy as fuck and it's so annoying.
Yeah, yeah. I
Mine
don't
don't
like-
even work anymore. It's pinned to my taskbar next to Photoshop, and sometimes I'll misclick, and it takes ages to boot up. Right?
Yeah, it's
and then
so
when
annoying.
it does boot up, you can't click anything on it. It just makes a little shitty Windows plink plink noise.
Yeah,
You can't start a new project. You can't close it down at the X or anything like that. I've got to. You can't even right click and close it. I've got to go to Task Manager to close it. I don't know. The last thing I remember, it did.
it's probably because you haven't updated one of your builds.
What Visual Studio?
Yeah.
No. I think what happened with it. The last thing I remember is it asked to do an update, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." And I think my computer spasmed out halfway through and didn't finish it.
Oh,
I think
right,
maybe
okay. So it's just corrupted.
Yeah, it's corrupted, so I'll have to uninstall it and reinstall it if I ever get back to it.
We have used it before because during that period where I lived at my dad's and we were doing YouTube videos, we were also trying to learn 3D modeling and scripting, just for no particular reason, just because we had spare time and we
Yeah.
wanted to be productive. We eventually dropped that though, and I didn't do any 3D modeling again for like 2 years. In my second year, which I actually completely skipped over, which is where I met my girlfriend. This when she came over from France to do an exchange. She already had a first in graphic design. She didn't need to do any more education. She was ready to just go out into the world, but she was like, I want a bit extra. So she decided to come to England and see how we do things, which for her was shockingly different. Like, they were in every day. They were in from like 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. It was like, and I've been to her old university, and it actually looks like a prison. It's got these like big grey stone walls that like slant in towards you, like to
Wow.
make you feel more claustrophobic. And they've got this huge fence that goes around the edge, and they've tried to make it look artsy and put like warped metal in like patches and stuff, but it looks like a death cheese grater or something, and it's got this barbed wire along the top. It honestly looks like a prison. It's crazy. And like the lighting in the hallways is really dim. It's probably trying to save power or something, but it's just really creepy. Like how the walls are coming toward you and stuff is.
Jesus.
So yeah, they lived a really strict life, like learning everything there is to know, and they had a really good education. And she's a million times better than me at graphic design.
Yeah.
Because her education was so good. And then she came over to England, and she was like, "What do you mean you're only in 2 days? You just sit around and jack off all the time? Like, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that sort of weeded out the people who weren't passionate about it, though. There was a few people that ended up getting dropped from the course because they were like, "Oh, I'm only in 2 days, so I'll only work when I'm in." Whereas the people who were passionate about it and cared about the course, cared about the fact that they were paying £7,000 a year, were working from home. Basically, that's what they wanted us to do, because they were trying to save money so they could give more money to the fucking drama course and buy them stages and makeup and shit. Meanwhile, we're crammed in a little computer room.
Because that's what we need, more drama queens.
Well, the guy who was in charge of the department, the creative arts department, he seemed a bit creepy. Like, he didn't care about our course, but he cared about the course that was full of the skinny, athletic women.
So he fucks kids.
And probably fucks kids.
Allegedly.
Well, they're not kids. It's still a uni course. So.
Well, yeah. It's still creepy, though.
Yeah, it's very creepy, especially since he's quite old as well.
Yeah.
The tutors, a few times we went out and got drunk with our tutors. The hilarious thing was that they'd slag each other off when one of the other one wasn't there. Like, say nasty shit about each other. But one thing that they both could agree on was that the head of department was a prick. And they just constantly berated that guy as well.
So he was a prick, mate. In fact, I don't think I've ever met a teacher that wasn't a massive prick. At least to some degree.
My stepmom's a teacher. She's really nice.
She's really nice.
Yeah. Oh, you've met her now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. She doesn't like it, though, because all the other teachers are pricks to her.
My auntie, my auntie Tina she had a husband. She's got a new husband. He's called Pinder. Yeah, my dad wasn't happy about that. Well, that's a story for another time. He's a really nice guy. We met him. He was awesome. He's a teacher as well.
Yeah.
But he hates it, and he straight up just admitted the only reason he's still a teacher is because of the amazing holidays they get.
Yeah.
And the pay.
Well, the holidays are that amazing because they still have to do lesson plans and stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, they get to do it at home. They get to chill out at home for a lot of weeks of the year.
Yeah. And then they go and deal with horrible British kids for several months and get abused by them and get massively underpaid and all the stories that I hear about other teachers, they're just like kids. Like, they're taking social lessons from kids. Like, they've got their own little cliques and bully all the other groups of teachers, and like you'll have a group of mosher teachers and a group of snobby English teachers, and they'll just slag each other off and stuff. And it's like, oh my god, where's the maturity? How are these people teaching kids?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like most teachers today just don't have the passion.
Yeah,
they just do it.
Well, it is hard to be passionate about it when
kids are cunts as well. So
yeah, kids are just
you can't even beat them up anymore.
No, exactly. I'm sure the passion was there when you could whip the kid around the back of the ass.
Yeah, you just bored, like, right, the next kid to move a muscle is getting whipped.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of kids. Don't think I'll ever have kids, but I guess that's the story.
I love my sister's kids.
Yeah,
sometimes
nieces and nephews. Or nephew.
I've got favourites because, like, anyone who says they don't have favourites, whether you're a parent or like an auntie or an uncle or something like that, you're lying. Everyone's got a favourite. Currently, my favourite is Freya because she's super sweet and kind. She brought me pizza one time.
That's all it takes to win Ashley's heart.
Yeah, I was just chilling out. I had headphones on, and there were pizza downstairs. So she got a plate, put a few slices on it for me, and brought it upstairs. She's like, yes, I brought some pizza for you, Uncle Ash. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Oh, that's
my
sweet.
favourite. Yeah.
That's why she's your favourite.
Ellie used to be my favourite, but she's
in her teen phase now.
She's in a teen phase.
Yeah.
And she's really obnoxious, and she's super into 21 Pilots. Is that what they're called?
I think so, yeah. My sister was into them as well.
But she won't accept anyone's opinion about them unless they say, yeah, I love them as well. And so I was like, the music's not even that great, you know, it's just a fad, you're going to grow out of it. And she'll be like, no, I'm not, I'll fucking love them, I'm going to love them for the rest of my life. And then she just...
How naive.
She's trying to, like, convert everyone, so she'll try to play it on her phone all the time, like, just listen to this song, listen to this song. And then she'll be shouting over something.
To be fair, I remember being like that.
And I was like, God, Ellie, in like, I swear down, like, in 2 years' time,
you'll regret all your decisions.
You'll be all like, oh my God, I can't believe I was so into 21 Pilots, they suck.
Well, it's like that with most music. Especially when you're a teen, whatever you're into as a teen just turns into cringe.
Yeah, I used to be like into Bullet from Valentine and shit like that.
Yeah,
and now
same.
I'm like, oh my God, this music's so crap. I still like metal, to clarify, but I won't call Bullet from Valentine metal.
No. It's just they saw the emo trend and how, despite like people, I don't know. Speaking from my personal experience, I was a very cringy person as a emo teen.
I don't think I went through the emo phase.
No, when I met you, you had really long hair and you were full on sweaty mosher.
Yeah.
But I from my experience, I was a really cringy. If I look back on some of the decisions I made, especially with my hair, that was a very cringy phase, and I don't know if it's that the music's bad. I can't really speak for how good music is because I have no experience except from making the music that I made for my game.
Yeah,
which was another thing that I had to learn to do, was make music.
It was very formulaic emo music. It wasn't brilliant.
Well, I don't know if I had never had that phase and I heard the songs now, maybe I'd like them more. But just the fact that it reminds me of how cringe I was, it just makes me put off the music.
I didn't like it because it wasn't about the music, it was about how good they looked. So like they'd all be dressing in like really tight clothing and it'd be all shiny and stuff, and they'd have makeup on and they'd be like flaunting themselves in front of the camera. And I just don't like any band that puts visual aesthetics over like the musical aesthetics. Like that's one of the reasons why I stopped listening to Slipknot, because it was all about the masks. Everyone was talking about the masks and stuff.
Throwing up on people and throwing rotten pigs around and stuff.
You know, like how metal can I be? And there's a band recently that I saw. They go on stage and they're dressed in full like orcish cosplay, mate. Yeah, I've seen that. And I'm like, fucking hell! Like, what How can you take yourself seriously?
Yeah,
there's that band as well, Lordy or whatever. Was it?
Yeah. They just reminded me of Klingon.
They dress up like demons and shit. I'm like, you fucking plebs, mate. Go find a proper passion regarding the music. Yeah, I feel like stuff like that's okay if it's for a music video. Yeah. Stuff like that's okay, just period. But if it comes before the music in like your hierarchy of the process, I don't think I ever heard anyone say, "Oh my god, that Lordy song is brilliant." I always heard them say like, "Oh my god, they look so amazing in the demon shit." I'm like, okay. I don't think I never heard that much about Lordy. I just remember watching. Oh, what was it called? Hard Rock Hallelujah. What? No, the same name of the Lordy song. Scuzz. Yeah, the TV channel. Yeah, with all the emo music and shit. I remember them. Kerrang was more emo. Yeah, Kerrang was more emo. And Scuzz was a bit more heavier. Yeah. Well, I remember seeing them on Scuzz quite a bit. Yeah, Scuzz. What a horror. I haven't thought about that in ages. Is that still a thing? I don't know. I wonder. Probably not. I mean, that was back when... They probably just rebranded and picked up the next trend, like dubstep or something. I don't know. Is there still music channels?
I don't know. I don't have a TV. Well, I have a TV. I don't have TV.
Yeah, no, I don't use the TV at all. Because like everyone streams stuff now.
Yeah.
Spotify, you know, there's
Although-
a million music streaming websites, Last FM.
Yeah.
So like, why would they need channels like that anymore?
But streaming is becoming just a really awful process as well, because there's certain shows on Netflix, so you got to have Netflix. I've got Amazon Prime, not for
Oh yeah,
it's for the delivery, not for
it's turning into a real shit show. This streaming shit.
Yeah.
There's like a million services you all have,
yeah,
you have to
exactly.
sign up to them all
There's YouTube Red, which we can't even get.
in England. at the moment.
There's another one. We've got Now TV here. I'm not even sure what that is.
I think it's got like a bunch of Sky channels. Like
Right.
I don't know.
Um,
There's like Netflix.
yeah, but anyway, Disney are coming up with their own one, so they're pulling all their movies
Yeah.
from all the other streaming services and saying, "Oh, if you want to watch our movies, you got to come to us." And people are like, "Oh, well, I don't care about Disney animation anyway. Who wants to watch Snow White?" But it's like, yeah, but they're also taking Star Wars and all the
Yeah.
Marvel movies,
all those kids TV shows as well.
kids TV shows, and there's actually a surprising number of American TV channels which are owned by Disney that you wouldn't have known otherwise. So all that content is being pulled as
Yeah.
well towards the Disney streaming
They
service.
don't own HBO, do they? No, HBO have got their own streaming service now. It's called like HBO Now or HBO TV or something.
Well,
Yeah, there's just people when you subscribe to all these services, and it's just
yeah, you can't pay for that many. You've got to pick one, and it's I don't know. It's it used to be a convenience, like when it was just Love Film and Netflix back in the day.
I love film.
and then just more and more streaming services came out. I think Hulu had one for a while.
Yeah, I think there's loads of them. It's oversaturated at the moment.
Yeah. Don't know what this has to do with graphic design, but it's a nice tangent. So.
Well, they all have logos. We talk about the Netflix logo and how simple it is, but as soon as you see it, you know.
Yeah. True.
It's got like a really like old timey look to it. I think it's the font.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like don't know, a little bit Art Nouveau.
Yeah, like maybe what logos look like in the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah. Feels a bit 20th to me. I don't know. Whatever.
Way before our time.
Yeah, exactly.
I like graphic design how it was back then.
Yeah. Well, one of my favourite artists is Alphonse Mucha.
Yeah.
And he must have been one of the first people that started making promotional posters for stuff. Like he'd make posters for plays and things and coffee. Yeah, I'll have to show you. It's really cool.
Has he ever done one for Covfefe?
Covfefe.
That's not even a funny meme anymore.
No.
I don't know how we managed to keep it alive in our group for so long.
Well, no, I don't know. Some of the people I follow online still reference it, so
Right, fair enough.
it's probably because of that I've kept referencing it. Yeah, I'll have to show you Alphonse Mucha. And I think me and Candice are looking at getting a big, like... Because we have 6 windows in our living room, and there's like a very thin wall between each one. So we're looking at getting like a huge, like floor length Alphonse Mucha poster to put in between.
That'd
I
be
think
really
that'd
cool.
look awesome.
You did like Orlando
Arachina.
Arachina.
Yeah. He was a huge inspiration when I was...
Is it Arachina? Arachina?
I think it's Arachina. He's Mexican.
Arachina? Yeah, it will be Arachina. Won't it?
He's a very famous... Well, I feel like he's very famous, but I also feel like nobody knows him. But if you used Adobe Creative Cloud and used Illustrator through that, for a long time, one of the splash screens that came up was made by him.
Right.
And he does a lot of stuff with Adobe. He had promotional rights for Star Wars. He does a lot of fan art. He's like made a living out of fan art, so
Wow.
that's really cool.
I don't really have any favourite like graphic artists. I've got one of my favourite illustrators of all time was a Polish guy whose name I'm going to butcher, but I believe it's pronounced like Sedisław Beksiński.
Okay.
Anyway, Beksiński, I'm sure people know him. He was a Polish guy, and he was like very tormented because of it. He lived, he grew up in like a war or something like that. I'm not particularly clued in on any Polish wars. But I think he used to have nightmares as well, something like that. And he'd wake up in the morning and he'd paint his nightmares and stuff. So he's got these really like hellish and like super ghoulish paintings and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I've showed you one. There's like one where it's like a corpse, like it looks like he's playing a flute and he's got all these like knuckles all down his chest and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I think he painted like a big doorway to hell or something like that. And I think the door's got like a big face on it or something. It's really creepy. He's my favourite artist.
Yeah, it's some really cool
stuff. He was murdered by
fucking hell.
A family friend.
Yeah, it's a great life, didn't he?
Yeah, no. You should read up on him, and it was a proper tortured life. He's kind of like what's his face, Charles Bukowski, and how tortured he was.
Yeah.
You don't know Charles Bukowski is. You need.
I was supposed to get all into like graphic design history and like
Charles Bukowski is not an artist. He's an author.
All right. Okay.
I think he worked as a postman for all his life, and then one day, at like the age of 50 or something like that, he just quit and he started writing books.
Yeah.
But he was an alcoholic, and he was a serial adulteress. Adulterer.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so his main character in the book was like basically him and stuff like that. It's really good. You should read Charles Bukowski's books.
I will.
His famous saying. I think it might be written on his grave. I'm not sure, but it's "Don't try" or something like that.
Oh
wow. Which is very deep. But yeah, Charles Bukowski and Beck Shinsky, they're both like kind of tortured and whatnot, and it reflects in their artwork, the media. But yeah, Beck Shinsky was murdered by a family friend, a young lad. He asked to borrow some money off him, and he said no, and so he like broke into his house or something like that and stabbed him like 16 times or something.
Oh.
And killed him.
Jesus.
But yeah, he's my favourite artist. I don't have any favourite graphic artists.
No.
Just because I've not been involved in the scene as much. Yeah. But I know of one called Aaron Draper. And he's got some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I like his workflow and stuff like that. I watched a video and he starts off with a shape and then he'll alt and drag that shape out because he's got an idea to manipulate it.
Yeah.
And then he'll manipulate that and then he'll alt and drag that out. So then he's got like a whole like timeline of what he's done. So if he's finished the product and he's like, nah, it's not looking great, he can look back at the different iterations of like, well, I think I had something there.
Yeah.
So he can drag that out and work on that.
Oh,
and I thought that was a really clever idea.
Yeah,
it's very thingy. So yeah, that's the only guy I really know in graphic design.
You didn't mention one of your other favourite artists. I have no idea what his name is.
Hyung Tae Kim.
Yeah. He's got really, really cool proportional.
I'm not
style.
He's one of my favourite artists, but like I don't know much about him. I just like his proportions.
Yeah. They're really cool.
He works on video game art. He did the art for a video game called Magna Carta, I think.
Right.
But yeah, his proportions are really like overly exaggerated. Like if you had an X-ray vision, and you looked at the skeleton of the person that he drew.
Yeah, it'd be all
dislocated. And it'd look mangled as fuck. But he does it to like accentuate certain features.
Yeah.
Like I think the guys are like the shoulders are super wide and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The girls, they've got like super wide hips. The legs are really long. Torsos are super short.
They'll be in a really twisted pose that exaggerates movement and
it's very much about shape as well. Like he'll have an idea of a shape and he wants the perfect like curve.
Yeah.
But like a human body won't be able to do that perfect curve, so he'll exaggerate the proportions just so it fits that like golden ratio or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really like him. Hyung Tae Kim, I think he's called.
Right.
Those are two artists I like. I never really liked following.
No,
artists.
I don't either, and that was something that really bothered me when I was in uni. Was that they were asking me to look back at what other people have done and like research it, write papers about it and stuff. And I was just kind of wanted to learn the process and come up with my own ideas of what's good graphic design rather
Yeah.
than going because graphic design is so. Is it subjective?
Yeah,
Yeah, subjective, not objective. Subjective.
Subjective.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's subjective.
Anyway, so you can't say this, and this is good graphic design, and this is bad graphic. Well, to a degree you can, but when you put good graphic design together, just by default it's good because it's not awful.
Yeah.
But even bad graphic design, like stuff in the 90s, which me and you find disgusting, that's like making a comeback, and people are. Well, actually, the way that they're revamping 90s graphic design is a lot nicer than it used to be. But
yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
you can't basically just say do it like this. This is the right way to do it. It's not. There's no right way to do it.
Creative media, like you can't just copy the last guy because it's plagiarism.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it's very subjective. Like illustration, you could be a terrible artist, but like someone's going to like find something they like about it.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to teach art, I think. So,
just what you said about that. When we were playing Overwatch, we were in an Overwatch Facebook group, and I did this painting of Diva.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Like a digital painting. I did it over a day. It wasn't the best thing ever, but I put loads of like flashy effects on it and like used her holographic heads-up display so that it was as though you were looking at her through it.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool. It's not the best thing ever, but it was still, you could tell I knew what I was doing, kind of thing. So I posted that on the Overwatch group that we were in, and like 3 people were like, "Oh, that's cool," and then like directly beneath that, somebody had done the most disproportionate, horrible pencil drawing of a chibi version of one of the characters, and that had like 100 people being like, "Oh, that's amazing, that's awesome," and
Best thing I've ever seen.
yeah, exactly. So, like what you said, it could be the worst thing you've ever seen to somebody else, but somebody's gonna like it.
Yeah. It's very subjective, and I find it like it must have been really hard to teach people that because like back in school, it always seemed to just be boiled down to like, oh, like today we're learning about fucking I don't know Rembrandt or like Michelangelo or something like that, Monet. So what we want to do is like recreate one of his paintings, and then you do a portrait in his style and stuff. And it was like, fuck off.
Yeah,
like please fuck off.
Yeah, what you want to be doing rather than trying to emulate what somebody else has done is experimenting with different medias, different brushstrokes, different just whatever marks you can make, whether digitally or traditional. Just experiment with those, experiment with making shapes with those different mark making techniques, and then see if you develop your own style. It doesn't even have to be the media you use. It could be like with Hyung Tae Kim.
Yeah.
Using exaggerated proportions, that's his style. You see something that was done by him and you immediately know that he did it. So you want to experiment and see if you can find something that you like, and then once you're happy with it, then show it to other people and get their opinion. Like
I understand, like it's really like crucial that you learn from successful artists.
There are things you can learn from other artists, like composition,
yeah,
and color, and
it's a very good way, like seeing something and copying. It's a very good way of learning a skill. Like when I was learning how to play guitar and stuff like that, or just music in general, I'd listen to a song and I'd try and write the riff down that I was trying to learn just by ear, and I'd tweak that for like hours and hours until it sounds perfect. Yeah. And that really helped me understand about like tone and keys and the notes itself. And so there is something to be learning, like recreating great stuff.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you find a style that you like online and you go, "Oh, I like that. I want to draw like that," and that's all you ever do, you'll just get stuck there.
Yeah.
So you want to experiment and you want to find your own style. You want to find the style that comes naturally to you, but also that looks good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to spend ages frustrating yourself trying to emulate somebody else's style when it doesn't come naturally to you.
Yeah.
You want something that's more natural.
I found it ironic that it was an art course and it was all about exploring creativity and being free with it, and whatever, but then they shackled you.
Yeah.
you weren't free to do what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
If you'd have been able to like choose and like be able to explore and stuff like that, it'd been so much better.
It's not that we weren't allowed or that they stopped me, because if I wanted to do something a specific way, I would do it. I only showed the tutors my work because I had to. But they were so elitist about their techniques and the right and wrong way to do things, and I was so adamant that there isn't a right way to do things.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was like I was doing it for my GCSEs.
Yeah.
And they'd like be like, right, the project that you're gonna get marked on is you've got to get a canvas and you've got to paint like a pizza or like some fruit or something like that.
Yeah.
In the style of like Picasso.
Yeah, and then you'd have a full class of like 20-odd students that all did the same thing.
Yeah, it didn't look
It
any
was
different.
very slightly different.
And I would be like, well, I want to paint like this and use this media, and they'd be all like, well, you can do that, but you wouldn't get marked on it. And
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
well, so I've got to basically limit myself just so I can pass this course.
Yeah.
So I would have much preferred it, right, if the lessons were split up into like the fundamentals. You go and you learn fundamentals, but then the next lesson is like you're just free. Like express yourself in whatever media and format you want,
Yeah.
It'd have been much better. And then it'd be like the project should be loosely, very loose. Like we want you to paint.
It's just loose, really loose.
Very really loose. Paint this. Use whatever media you want, right? In whatever style you want and stuff like that. Just paint like a vase.
Yeah.
And so you might get some guy who paints it like how fucking Van Gogh would have painted it. You got some guy who painted it like Picasso. Like
Yeah.
got some guy who just fucking walks up and put a blob on the thingy as well, like it's a vase, but you stood 10,000 miles away,
Yeah.
It would have been so much more interesting. It would have helped a
Yeah.
lot of people explore creativity.
Well, my advice for anybody who's on an art course at the moment is, well, when you get to the point where you're looking for a job, I guarantee 90% of employers won't give a shit if you've got a first or a 2-1 or a 2-2 or nothing at all. What they care about is your portfolio. So if you're on an art course, don't worry yourself too much with the... It's easy for me to say because I got a first. But this is the mentality I had.
What did you get?
Stop it.
Was it a first?
Yeah, it was a first.
Was it a second?
Is there a second?
I don't fucking know.
I don't know.
Definitely
how
a
it works
first
either.
though, yeah?
Yeah, it was a first.
Alright.
Yeah, this is easy to say as somebody who got a first, but this is the mentality I used throughout the course. I wasn't aiming for a first.
You did get a first.
What are you doing? Have I said it a lot or something?
No, I just wanted to make a bit of a joke out of it.
Okay.
You got a first. It's very, very, very well done. Very, very proud of you.
But yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal that I got first, and I don't... Stop it!
Sorry,
that I got a good grade, I got a good result.
Alright, from this point onwards, you got a first. Carry on.
I forgot exactly what I was going to say.
Something about getting a first.
Fuck you. I'm trying to give people advice.
Yes, give them advice.
So, my mentality throughout the course wasn't, I need to fit the criteria perfect and I need to make sure my grades are amazing. My goal was to improve my skills, not just one skill, like don't just draw for 3 years straight, improve 6 or 7 skills. So I looked into vector illustration, 3D modeling, even coding, which had nothing to do with my course, but I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then through that process, I was building a very diverse portfolio of different media that I was able to utilize. And I think if you were to ask me, I would say that that's what got me a job, my portfolio. In fact, I already had the job before I even knew my results because of my portfolio. So I don't think the results are important in any way until you get to the point where you're looking at moving up the graphic design ladder and you want to become a lead designer in a huge team somewhere in London or something. Then the first thing they'll check is that you've got like 6 years of graphic design experience. The second thing they'll check is your grades, because I think... Well, no, the second thing they'll check is your portfolio, and then I suppose for such a high level job, the grades will come into it at that point. But they just wanted a priority to me. Like, I saw it as just a piece of paper and I didn't care. What I cared about was filling this portfolio with a wide range of different abilities, so that I could show people what I can do.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in an art course listening to this, I'd say you want that sort of mentality going forward, especially if you want to get into the graphic design industry. You want to focus more on your portfolio and your... I'm going to sneeze.
Better?
That hurt.
Bless you.
Trapped a nerve in my neck. Oh. Yeah, well, I hope that was mildly helpful.
So the takeaway from that is don't worry too much about your results.
Yeah, and if you feel like your teachers are being too strict about a specific way to do things and they're telling you this is the right way to do it, don't fucking listen to them. There's no reason to listen to me either, but...
Be your own person.
Yeah, develop your own style, develop your own techniques, do something that makes you comfortable. No, that's... You want to step out of your comfort zone, obviously, because...
Not that feeling comfortable is bad.
No.
But you should...
Well, that's why I said it, but then I thought that's a bit too broad of a thing to say.
Yeah, it goes without saying that being comfortable is amazing, but you should be able to step out of that comfort zone every now and then.
If necessary. So you need the experience of being outside your comfort zone.
It's the only way you can grow.
But speaking of comfort zone, like I said earlier, when I was in college, I refused to use Illustrator because it was so different from Photoshop. And I was like, oh, I'm comfortable with Photoshop, so why would I go to Illustrator? That was stupid, and that was naive and arrogant, and I should have used Illustrator. So that's an example where stepping out of your comfort zone is necessary. You should be open to new ideas and new techniques, and don't be strict, and don't say, no, this is my style.
Yeah.
That old meme from 4chan. It's my style.
My style.
If somebody's telling you...
It's not even an old meme. If you go on the art and critique board on 4chan now, people still say it.
Yeah. So, yeah, just don't be too strict about how you do things. And if somebody says, oh, I don't like this about it, don't take it too to heart, but also don't completely ignore them and go, oh, it's just my style, it's how I do things. If you hear the same thing over and over about your style, then maybe it's something to consider.
Oh, what's that amazing line in Lucky Number 11? Where it's all like, if a man calls me a horse, I'll punch him on the nose or something like that. But if another man calls me, the second man calls me a horse, I'll like kick him or something. If the third man calls me a horse, well, maybe it's time I buy a saddle or something.
That's great.
I probably butchered the shit out of that line, but it's a really good quote in that movie.
Yeah, that's a very relevant quote. I think I'm pretty much done on this topic. What about you?
I don't really have any profound bits of advice.
I could talk about what it's like working in the graphic design environment.
I guess it's not really graphic design related, it's more like illustration related for people who are just like starting out learning how to draw or paint or whatever. I figured out, because when I was about 10 years old, I'd just be practicing. I'd ask people who were good at art, like, how do you get so good? And they'd say, oh, just practice. And I'm like, I'm doing that, but I'm obviously not doing it right. Yeah. It wasn't until like maybe 3 years later, when I was starting school, upper school, that I realised practice is only half of the battle. Yeah. You also need to learn the theory. Yeah. And up until that point, I always heard people say like theory versus practice. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it should be theory and practice. Yeah, you need to find a good balance. You can't just draw the same like portrait over and over again and expect to get good. Yeah. You've got to be able to learn a bit of theory so you can analyse where you went wrong and how you can fix it. Yeah. And as soon as I figured that out, my art just improved so much. Yeah, that's definitely a huge part of it. Colour theory is a very important thing, especially in graphic design. You want to know colour harmonies and... Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say that like falls into the fundamentals like that you need to learn. The very, basic stuff. Like you need to learn all about proportions. Yeah. So basically like shape and then form and then detail, all that stuff, and then colour definitely comes into it. Mm-hmm. So you learn fundamentals first. As you do that as you're practicing, but then like maybe learn theory alongside it, colour theory and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It should never be one or the other. It should always be both. And I feel like if you take that into a consideration, your art is going to improve so much.
I agree with that massively. So working in a graphic design environment, I know there are a wide range of different graphic design environments, and I'm only experiencing one. I have experience with another, which is working in a business that is based around only graphic design, selling graphic design to clients who don't have their own in-house graphic design team. That seems like such a shitty like battle, as I said earlier, just constantly fighting for clients, and you've got to put loads of work in, spend your time creating a pitch. So basically doing half the work without them even saying yes, or without them paying you or anything. You're doing half the work just to show them what your potential idea for their campaign is. And then they'll have like 50 other graphic designers giving them the same, giving them several pitches for the same project.
Yeah.
And then they will decide who they're going to pay. So if you don't get that pitch, then you're fucked. You've just wasted loads of time and absolutely shit for money. And then there's how my job is now, which is I work in an in-house graphic design team. Well, no, I am the graphic designer in an in-house marketing team. We have another graphic designer who is part-time, but he has a lot more experience than me and is a much better graphic designer than me. I need to build up the same experience just in that world to get that good. So another thing to note is that when you move into the graphic design industry from uni, don't assume that just because you've got your qualification you know everything, because there is still so much you'll be learning for at least another 10 years as soon as you get into the industry.
Yeah. I'd like to add there as well, like, be prepared to be told what to do from people who don't know design.
Exactly. Just 90% of the time you're being told by somebody who hasn't had the same experience, hasn't got the same qualifications, hasn't done the same research and training and all this other stuff, telling you that they prefer a colour just because it looks nice.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but my whole colour harmony is ruined, what are you talking about? And
like, yeah, you could spend like a good solid like chunky day, maybe 6 hours,
just making minor amends.
Yeah, I don't know. What I'm saying is like making a perfect logo using like perfect golden ratio. You might have like studied a bit of color theory and, you know, psychological studies around like which colors to use and stuff like that. And it could be the most perfect logo any human has ever created in your life. You present it to the client, and the client's all like, I kind of want like a pink and green color, and I want it to have this shape. And you're all like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, where did you study graphic design?
Yeah, exactly.
How long did you study it for? Where's your portfolio?
That can definitely be really frustrating, especially because in my situation is, as the graphic designer in the marketing team, I am creating assets for everybody. So there's about 7 different people that I've got to create assets for. I make website assets, email assets, social media assets, branding assets, campaign assets. I recently put together all the assets for a really big giveaway campaign, which I think was really cool. There's probably one of about 3 things I've actually done there that I like.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of control over that, as in the creative direction it took, which was really refreshing. It was a nice break from constantly being told to make very minor and frankly unnecessary amends just for the sake of making amends, which hold the project back. You'll be like working all day to meet a deadline. It'll be like 10 minutes before you got to go home, and then somebody will ask you for an amend, which to them looks tiny, like, how can you change this thing in the background? But you've got to change it in After Effects, render out a video, open it in Photoshop, resize it, render it as a GIF, and then you'll send them it and they'll go, oh, can you just move it to the left a bit? And they think, oh, it's just going to hit the left key a couple of times and move it, but it's not that simple. You've got to go back to the origin file and render it out again. And
yeah.
So the fact that they don't quite understand the process can be really frustrating, because sometimes what looks to them like a minor change is a huge process which is holding back the project for no reason, when the asset is perfectly fine to just go out as it is. That's one of the probably most frustrating and difficult things that I'm dealing with at the moment, is just minor amends that are completely unnecessary. But also, yeah, because I'm creating assets for several different people within the company, I also have to answer to all of those. So the way the marketing team structure works is we have a marketing manager who tells everybody to do their job, tells them what they need to change, when they can publish it, and all this other stuff. But then all those people are on the same level. They're all in a team. They work with each other rather than above each other or below each other. Whereas as a graphic designer, you're right at the bottom. You're at the bottom of the food chain. You have to take feedback from everybody else. So, yeah, basically, if you just imagine it, there's the manager at the top, the rest of the team in the middle, and then you at the bottom, because you're constantly creating amends for them. So everybody gives you orders, the manager gives you orders, and then everybody else gives you orders. But for the rest of the team, they only take orders from the manager, sort of thing.
Basically, what I've got from that is, you as a graphic designer, you're in this deep, dark hole.
Yeah.
And you're looking up and you can see everyone at the surface having a nice fucking party, or all eating nice food and stuff like that, and you're starving, and then someone throws down a sandwich for you, and you're like, finally, food, but it turns out to be a shit sandwich.
Yeah, I won't say it's that bad. It's not like I hate my job. It's been a little rough lately.
Yeah.
Just there's so many campaigns going on, and there's not enough communication between different teams and even people within the teams. So we've got to a point now where we've got way too many campaigns for anyone to handle, and I've got so much work on my plate. It's ridiculous. It doesn't help that I've been off ill lately as well with bronchitis. So
Oh, you got bronchitis?
Yeah, I mentioned it in the first episode.
Right. I didn't know. I would never have guessed.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because you cough all the time.
I don't feel like I've been coughing as much in the podcast as in the first few.
No, it does seem to be like, what was it? Petering off? Is that the word?
Yeah, it seems to be getting better. So yeah, working in the graphic design industry is not as perfect as you might think. A lot of people who aren't graphic designers will think, oh, you get to draw all day, that's awesome. But no, really. Well, some people I'm sure do. I'm sure there's jobs out there, like working for Hallmark cards must be a brilliant job, because you just sit and illustrate flowers and shit all day.
Grass is always green on the other side, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure if anybody listening from Hallmark cards, they're like, oh no, I've got to make so many amends, I've got to run my cards by 7 different people.
You make this beautiful flower, and then your boss walks out behind you and is all like, that's got too many petals.
Yeah, I've got this little meme that I do, because we use Works Chat. So I'll start a project and I'll do something that I think is awesome, and then it'll go through the process of everybody seeing it and asking me to make amends, and then I'll get to the final product where they're like, yeah, that's okay, I like that, and then I'll put the 2 images together and send it to you, and it'll be like how I did it, how they wanted me to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, to me, possibly to you as well, the way that I did it looks way cooler.
The way you did it, like, catches eyes very well, and that's what you want from a graphic designer, someone that can make very appealing images. And then the way that they make you do it is very like a distilled, like corporate.
Yeah, it's so corporate
version of it.
Yeah, that's something I really don't like. I think my dream graphic design job would ideally be within a video game studio, not just because I like video games, but because I get a lot of my inspiration from video games, especially when I was in uni. I had this Naughty Dog art book that I just had stuck to me constantly. I have a Destiny art book as well, which I was using a lot for the vector phase of my...
There's another bit of advice for anyone who likes games but is also learning how to do illustrations. Pick up art books of your favourite games.
Yeah, definitely.
Study the styles and stuff like that.
Yeah, you should... My tutors kept telling me, oh, you should have a collection of graphic design books, and there was some really profound and ridiculous books that basically started off the book saying, introduction, I'm going to tell you how graphic design should be done. And I'd be like, okay, no, I'm not getting this book. So what I would do is I get a library of game art books, and they'd tell you their process, why they made certain decisions, and they won't say, if you're doing art, you should do it this way as well. They'd say, so we thought this looked better this way, and these colours looked better in contrast to these colours and stuff. And I just feel like a lot of my philosophy in graphic design is aligned with the philosophy in game art.
You have like a big book full of like 80s graphic design, is it? And it's got like all the
no, it's a colour harmony book.
Colour harmony.
It's not 80s. It goes from like 1920s, all the way up to early 2000s, and it's got all like really popular colour harmonies from that time.
That'd be a really good book for
people. Yeah, that is a really helpful book. I actually formulated our colour scheme using that book, so for our branding.
I don't think I've got anything more to say about design and illustration.
I thought the conversation was petering out, and then I just had so much more to say about.
Yeah, you got second wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm done with this conversation.
All right. Fucking hell.
So, I mean, I've exhausted all my resources.
I don't really have much more to say. Obviously, as we've said before, we want to cater to creatives with our podcast, because a lot of the time when we would listen to podcasts is when we're working on something creative. So, I thought I'd do a podcast about graphic design, because I know there will likely be graphic designers listening to this, especially those who are in college or uni, working at home, trying to get a project finished or whatever, and just thought I'd give my 2 cents on what it's like in the design world. Not that by any stretch I'm a high-level graphic designer,
or like you've waded right into the middle of it, or like you might still be on the outside somewhere.
No, yeah,
there's
definitely.
Still a big, deep
well,
to go.
My perspective is that of somebody that has just I've spent like 6 months or something in the graphic design world fully, and a year as freelance, as well as a few months before that working in another design team. So I'm very much just like ankle deep in the graphic design world, and it goes so much deeper. I remember in college, we went to London and visited a design studio there, and they were working on an ad campaign for Audi.
And they all just turned and looked at you and was like, get out now.
No, but it was such this big, intimidating world, and I was like, how could I possibly go from college to this? I'm nowhere near as good. Oh my god, I want to stop. I want to do something else. And it just really put me off graphic design, which was weird because the whole point of the trip was to inspire people, and there was a lot of people there that were like, oh, this is awesome. I can't wait to get into this world. But now that I'm sort of ankle deep, as I said, in the graphic design world, I could sort of see myself working
you
in that environment in the future, but a long time in the future. Like, I feel like there's a long process that a long build up to getting into a huge design studio like that.
You feel more comfortable taking a few extra steps and wading into the deep waters.
Exactly. You don't want to just throw yourself in.
Just out of curiosity, before we end this episode, when you started doing graphic design in uni, was your dream job always to work in like a game studio, like you said earlier, or did you want to just be a freelance logo designer? Or?
I'll be honest, the reason I went to uni was because I had nothing to do.
Fair enough.
And I had no money, and I was struggling to find a job because the job market in our country is an absolute nightmare at the moment. It's so hard to find any kind of job, never mind a graphic design job. So just to put me on for a while, I decided to go to uni. I didn't really care. It took a while. It wasn't until midway through second year when I was making a deck of cards with Candice.
Remember that?
That I started to think, actually, I could do a job like this. But I think what I always wanted to do was just find a way to do it myself online.
Yeah.
Because it had always been for ages I was posting artwork on DeviantArt when I was a little edgy teen, and then Behance, which is more professional DeviantArt, Tumblr, and making YouTube videos and stuff. I just always wanted my work to get seen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really wanted to find a way to monetize that.
Right,
and
so you
make a living off
it
of
wasn't
it.
so much as a dream job, but just a dream that you wanted to make money off of.
Yeah.
Graphic design.
And then obviously as I got a bit more mature and a bit more into that world, I saw myself in a graphic design job. I think I've always wanted to, ever since I was an edgy teen, wanted to work in a games design team.
Yeah.
But that was more like, oh, video games are so cool. But then again, as I matured, I was like, actually, that would actually be really awesome to work in a design team, to work in that environment where everybody is just as creative as you are. And there's no like corporate overhang, except in Japan, but we might talk about that another time.
Yeah.
So I think it was around the end of second year when I was like, oh, that would be the perfect job. But I had it in my mind then, and I still have it in my mind now, that I can't find a way to break into that sort of world. I don't know what the bridge would be between corporate graphic design and video game design, and I think there's a lot of work to be put in if I want to get to that point, into that profession. It is my dream job, would be to work in a graphic design studio, but not a graphic design, in a video game development studio. But also, when I think really deeply about that, I start to think, what if we just started working on a really shit game? Like, what if I got into a video game studio but they were making FIFA or Call of Duty? I just won't be into it. It'd have to be a cool studio that was like making Game of War or some.
Well, it's not like you
Not Game of War,
it's not like you'd just decide to go work in a game studio and you get given what you get given.
Yeah.
You'd be able to pick and choose. Like you might really enjoy Blizzard's art style and you might be able to land a job with them.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing to do with that maybe is just to throw yourself into it, get as deep as you can. Start.
That's contradictory to what we just said.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, if like you said, you couldn't find a bridge between it. Maybe the best way is just to break all convention and make your own fucking bridge.
Yeah.
Don't mean to sound too profound, but yeah. So what's the design challenge?
Because it's graphic design was the topic of the podcast. Like, what can I say? Make some graphic design and send us it.
I think a really cool one would be to there's I can't remember where I found it, but you can probably find a million of them anyway. Find like a corporation like name and description generator, fucking Evil Corp. They make evil robots to dominate the world, and then try and make their logo.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
So find a generator that generates a company name and a description, or just a company name. You can make your own description up. And then make up a logo for that.
Yeah, that's really
or a whole branding page if you feel like it, if you're brave enough.
Yeah, a whole brand guidelines. I've done 2 brand guidelines now and I absolutely hate it. Yeah, well, I'm glad I said that because I'm glad you said that because I didn't have anything.
I can't really think of anything for the audio guys.
Well, it's a visual based.
It's a very visual based
podcast.
So I don't know. Just send us whatever you're currently working on if you are.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. If you're working on something while listening to this podcast, we want to see it.
Yeah.
So tweet it at us at UT2cast on Twitter. Don't forget to check out our website, ut2cast.podcast.com. We're also on YouTube. You should be able to find us just by searching it. If not, then you'll see the links on Twitter anyway, so it's fine. And yeah, that's it. I'm good.
I'm good too. Thanks for listening.
Really appreciate that.
We'll catch you in the next episode.
Goodbye.
Friends of Hard Groove.